There's been a lot of talk over the last couple weeks about this crash, a market crash when it comes to Prismatic Evolutions. I would agree that some singles are probably crashing. I don't know if I would necessarily use the word crash or the terminology crash. It depends on what your explanation or your definition of crash is. Like, there are single cards throughout the Pokemon card market that are dropping 20, 30, 40%. Like crazy. Special illustration rares. It's actually a really good time to buy singles right now. Like, I've been buying an absolute ton of singles just because they are coming down in price so much. A lot of people, a lot of attention is really just focused on sealed product. Now, we had Prismatic Evolutions get reprinted or restocked, or however you want to phrase it. And it did make a little bit of a dent in the hobby. However, not big enough. And the reason behind that is kind of twofold. Number one, there wasn't enough of a reprint or a restock to really impact demand that much. There's still a lot of demand out there, and supply just never really going to match up, especially when it comes to Prismatic Evolutions. Number two, the second reason why it probably didn't impact the market a ton is because distro is just charging too much. Right now, you get, so for me, for example, like, we got a decent amount of Prismatic Evolutions Elite Trainer boxes sent to us for a restock, but the price was almost double. It was actually over double what we paid. When you're paying $80 for an Elite Trainer box wholesale, that's your wholesale cost. Very difficult to sell at a lesser price point. Now, what are you going to do? Like, as a storefront, you kind of have to take it because it's going to impact your future allocations. If you say no, then they're going to be like, okay, well, your spend is down. As a distributor, you don't really have much of a choice to charge that much. Like, you're not getting anything from the Pokemon Company International because despite the fact that they're running printers all the time, there's just not enough products. So they're sending stuff to distro, but it's not enough. And then there's not enough restocks or reprints or anything like that for them to have things in stock when store owners reach out. I reached out to my distro, or one of my distros, earlier this week, a couple days ago, and just said, hey, is there anything else that you have? Nothing. There's literally nothing that they can send me to kind of restock the shelves, and that makes it very difficult. So those are kind of the two reasons where we didn't see as big of a drop in Prismatic Evolutions. But part of the reason I think that people are actually noticing this downward spiral when it comes to a lot of singles is because I don't think the demand is there. I don't think it is. I think a lot of people, and you can let me know in the comment section down below what your thought is, what your opinion is on Prismatic Evolutions. I think a lot of people have programmed themselves to be like, I'm not going to open Prismatic Evolutions. I'm just not going to. What's the point? The pull rates are difficult, and the pull rates, don't get confused, are the same as what they have been for pretty much every single Scarlet and Violet era set since the release of Temporal Forces. About 70 packs or so is going to yield you one special illustration rare. The problem is that there are so many different special illustration rares in the set that you're like, well, I really want it. My chase is an Evolution special illustration rare. Well, that makes up only 25% of the special illustration rare. So even if you pull a special illustration rare, the likelihood, the probability of it being one of those Evolutions is only 25%. Like, you have the same amount of a chance of pulling one of the masks or pulling one of the trainer cards, one of the special illustration trainer cards, and then you don't feel really like you won. So it makes people think like mentally that they're missing out. Like that, and then the Master Balls just did not hit as well as I think a lot of people thought they were going to. Obviously, they're designed differently than what we saw with Scarlet and Violet, or with Pokemon 151. Master Balls are different than what we saw in the Japanese set, and the lack of illustration rares make it almost unbearable to open for a lot of people. So I think they kind of aren't opening it for that reason. Also, the fact that they can't find it anywhere for MSRP or anywhere close to MSRP. So it's kind of a combination of those two things. And once the set released, we saw a lot of buyouts. There are Discord buyout groups that are out there. Like, I've literally been sent screenshots of targeting specific cards, like the Blood Moon Ursaluna and like the Palafin EX, targeting those cards, buying them up, buying up all this inventory, whatever's available on TCG Player, and then relisting at a higher price point. But if you look at the amount of sales that TCG Player is experiencing on a weekly basis on some of these special illustration rares, it might be 1 or 2 a week. Like, it's very, very small. These cards are not moving. It just seems like there's not a whole lot of interest in what was supposed to be the most hyped set. I think a lot lot of collectors are just like, well, forget it. I'm just going to skip it. I'm going to focus on Journey Together. I'll focus on Destined Rivals. I'll save my money. And yeah, there might have been some people who paid above MSRP or who paid market just to open up a little bit. And then after they opened up a little bit, they were like, no, this isn't fun. And then the idea of like the stress level that it brings to try and hunt down all these cards is just not worth it for a lot of people. So you can let me know what you think. I think that's really the main reason that we're seeing such a crash. Not because there's more product. I don't think there's still enough product to hit demand. I just think that the demand isn't there as much. And you can, like I said, let me know in the comment section down below. I hope you enjoy the content. If you do, please hit that subscribe button down below. Leave a like, leave a comment. It does go a really long way for the algorithm. I wanted to talk about Prismatic Evolutions a little bit because I said I was going to. We'll get back to Destined Rivals content next week. Obviously, I got to work on that master set. So make sure to hit that subscribe button down below because we're going to give that master set to one lucky subscriber. We're going to start out talking about the Prismatic Evolutions Elite Trainer Box. I do think that this is going to be a popular set for a very, very long time. I think it just got too expensive too fast right out of the gates. And you're seeing Journey Together drop, and Journey Together, obviously, not a specialty set, main series set. Same thing with Destined Rivals. Release day for Destined Rivals is here. Elite Trainer Boxes have dropped down to about $90 already, and the set's only been out officially for, a few hours. So, do I think it's going to continue to fall? Yeah, probably, especially Elite Trainer Boxes because those pop up in big box retailers all the time. And it seems like a lot of people are finding Elite Trainer Boxes in the wild, which is great. Obviously, it's very area specific. You just got to stick to your guns. Don't pay over MSRP. But the Prismatic Evolutions Elite Trainer Box reprint or restock that we did get, I do think that the fact that distro was charging so much above MSRP for these really hurt things. And then you have people who are unwilling to sell, storefronts who are unwilling to sell at a loss, which is why we might have this price point kind of level off a little bit right around $100. So you see it right now at $115.20. It's down about 16% over the past 3 months. It might fall a little closer to that $100 mark, but until we get more Elite Trainer Boxes hitting the market, it's not going to fall down much further, especially if distro continues to upcharge their wholesale accounts. That really makes the big issue right there. If they bring that wholesale cost down a little bit, right now being at $80, obviously, once you factor in shipping and things like that, $100 does not leave that much meat on the bones. It needs to come down, even if it's like MSRP price point. Now, ideally, it would get back to the wholesale price point, and they would reprint the heck out of this, like what they did with Hidden Fates, where it gets to a point where it's like, okay, we're going to put a bunch of them out there, and that's going to bring the price down. That would be the ideal situation. I just don't know if Pokemon has the capacity to do that right now. Obviously, this was at $140.32 recently, not too long after release. Not as much Prismatic Evolutions products coming out right now. Obviously, we just had the release of the special premium collection. There's going to be a few more releases, but Prismatic Evolutions, I just don't think demand is there as much anymore as what it was. If we look at the Pokemon Center exclusive, there was a big restock of this that a lot of you guys, a lot of people were able to get W's on the Pokemon Center website, and it did bring the price down dramatically. So you saw about a 30%, 35% drop on Prismatic Evolutions as far as price point goes. You can see beginning the middle of March, it was hovering around $356. End of April is when that restock happened, and it fell all the way down to $236. That's a significant drop. Now it's starting to climb again. Obviously, it's sold out. Took a while for it to sell out, several hours, but you can see a lot of people taking advantage of that dip there that weren't able to get it, and that's why you have such a huge increase in quantity of sold, but also a lot of people kind of holding on to them for the long term. They're like, hey, we're going to buy it now while it's at the low, and that caused the price to inflate a little bit more. So sitting at $273.43 right now, still down about 22%, but I don't know if we're going to get a whole lot more restocks of this set on the Pokemon Center website because we did have a couple now. Booster bundles, this is what Pokemon needs to do. They need to feed out as many booster bundles as what they possibly can. That's what they did with 151, right? That really brought the average pack price down a lot. The booster bundles, your cheapest form of getting loose packs when it comes to any specialty set because they don't sell sleeve boosters. So there's no extra gimmicky things in the booster bundle. It's literally just packs. So it basically breaks it down to an MSRP of about $4.50 per pack. Remember, the MSRP on this is about $27, which breaks down to about $4.50 per pack. Now, beginning of March, this was selling for about $86. That was right out of the gates for the booster bundle. It did come down because that was release, right? So it came down to about $70, but then started climbing up a little bit. But there have been decent amounts of restocks of the booster bundles, which is going to impact the price. And if Pokemon can continue to drop off more of these, That's going to bring that average price point down on the booster packs on the secondary market, which is going to affect all the sealed categories. It's going to affect all the single prices because it gives more opportunity for that secondary market, not just for booster packs, which a lot of people will break open sealed product just to get the booster packs out of it, especially when it comes to people who stream on like Whatnot or Drip or any other platform where they're selling pack breaks and rip and ships and things like that. So that's going to help bring that price point down a little bit, but then more cards hit the extra, the actual secondary market, which brings the price down on a lot of those as well. So you can see it did go down to about $64.71, still a little bit more expensive than what I think a lot of people would like to pay. Obviously, that's over $10 per booster pack, but you're down about 21% over the past 3 months. So definitely moving in the right direction, but they have to feed a lot more of these out there in order to really make an impact. I understand we want more Elite Trainer boxes, we want more SPCs, I get that, but booster bundles are what's going to bring all that stuff down if you start producing these in mass. Plus, they can mass produce these because it's going to be the cheapest packaging option, probably the quickest one. They can put it in their vending machines that they've got 1 million of all over the place, and it's easy to stock at pretty much every big box retailer as well as LGS. Here's what's happening with the loose booster pack of Prismatic Evolutions. You can see from beginning of March up until April, end of April, it was actually gaining some steam. So it went from about $12.50 up to about $13.74. So it was going up quite a bit. And then once we started having more restocks hit the shelves, it started dying down. So now we've lost about 25% over the past month and a half, about 18% over the past 3 months, down to about $10.89. I'd really like to see this hit single digits because that's going to change things a lot. But the only way that's going to happen is if more of those booster bundles do hit the secondary market. So 18%, I don't know if I would necessarily, again, call that a crash, but I would call it a correction or a step in the right direction as far as a correction goes. I still think this is more expensive than I think you should pay for ripping a set like Prismatic Evolutions because pull rates are not necessarily more difficult. They're just not as fun as what we would compare to some of the other sets that are out there in existence. So it's a lot of fun to chase those evolutions, but when they're so difficult to pull, it can get really expensive really fast. We recorded a video a couple weeks ago when we opened up Destined Rivals that the Pokemon Center or the Pokemon Company International sent us, and one person who opened it up for us said that they had opened up 600 packs of Prismatic Evolutions and only pulled a few special illustration rares. So if you're not buying those packs at MSRP, it hurts a lot more. So definitely 18%, a really strong dip. We're not going to talk about the evolutions. Those are still a little bit inflated, although the Umbreon, for example, has come down at least a few $100, not a ton, but a little bit. And the evolutions, for the most part, relatively flat right now, but definitely trending in the downward direction, especially like that Sylveon right there. That was up to almost $600 at one time, come down to about high fours, which is really, really good. Here's Roaring Moon right here, and you can see it very interesting. Now, you will see blips on these graphs of times where it looks like manipulation or it looks like buyouts. I wouldn't necessarily call those manipulation like what we see at the middle of May there, where right around May 12th, you can see all of a sudden there's 20 that sold on that weekly basis. That day was actually during TCG Player's cashback sale. So 10% cash back basically on every single purchase meant a lot more singles that sold on TCGplayer.com. So if we look here, so you might see a false market a little bit over the next couple weeks when it comes to Prismatic Evolutions. But like Roaring Moon, for example, was definitely trending in the upward direction for the majority of March. But now as more and more singles, so as you can see, more sealed starting to drop, we can see that, you know, end of April, a lot more sealed starting to get out there and singles following suit. So the Roaring Moon hit 308.41. Now look what's happened. It's dropped about 3.74% over the past 3 months. But if you look what it's done since the beginning of April, when it was at $308. That's about a 30% drop over the last month and a half. So definitely trending down in that downward direction. Really cool cards, granted, don't get me wrong, but $300 seemed a little bit expensive for a special illustration rare that's not an evolution, and because of that, not selling that much, right? Like we talked about this earlier on in the video, only selling a few copies a week. There were a couple weeks in here where you can see 0 copies, 0 sales on a weekly basis. There's not a lot of supply out there, but also doesn't seem to be a lot of demand at these price points as well. Same thing with the Cerulege. Now you do have some points, some weeks where more have sold than the norm, but this one continues to drop down. You can see at the beginning of March, it was sitting there at 244.20. Now it's dropped almost 30%, so it's down about 27.5% over the past 3 months, sitting at 172.58. And again, for the most part, only selling between 2, 3, 4 copies on a weekly basis, so not moving, not flying off the shelves like what maybe it was doing at the beginning of time, at the beginning of the release. We are looking at one EV card, so the EVEX EX. This is one that you can pull from the set. This one has dropped over 20% over the past 3 months. You can see the middle of March, it was up there to about $240.28. Now it's sitting at $170.37. So about a 23% drop on that one. Again, not a whole lot of sales on a weekly basis. Anywhere from 2 to 4 is the norm. Sometimes it'll hit 6, but you also have a couple weeks in there where none sold at all. So very interesting. Just doesn't seem to be a whole lot of demand on that one. I don't even know what card this is, but it's dropped down 21%. We'll skip that one. All right, Raging Bolt EX. This is poor preparation on my part right there. Raging Bolt EX at the beginning of March, it was sitting at 166.61. You can see relatively flat after that, up until we started getting a lot more restock of some of that sealed items. And then because of that, the singles started dropping as well. So you can see in May, a little bit more sales than normally happen, but normally we're only seeing 2, 3, 4 sales on a weekly basis. It's dropped down to about $107. Might fall below $100 fairly soon. It's down about 24% over the past 3 months. I think, again, a lot of people bought some of these up and they're just not moving as well, which is really, really good. Here's the Master Ball Umbreon right here. Look at how far this bad boy has dropped. So you can see already in double-digit territory. Over the last 3 months, this was over $300 on release. Beginning of March, it was sitting at $270.49. I'm telling you, the Master Balls just do not hit the same for a lot of people. And it has dropped over 66% over the past 3 months. It's just getting absolutely destroyed. Down to about $91.30 and continuing to tumble. And again, not a whole lot of demand behind this card. You're only looking at 2, 3, 4 sales on a weekly basis. So a lot of Prismatic Evolutions, it just seems like a lot of people are kind of skipping. Palafin, a card that did get bought out quite a bit in February, kind of rose in March, hit that $129.09 price point, and now it's dropped over 30% since then. So over the past 3 months, it's lost about 24%, but really over the past couple months, it's lost over 30%. And again, only selling about 2, 3, 4 copies on a weekly basis. You do see that TCG Player Sale Day where we had an abnormal amount of sales that happened, but again, that was because of the 10% cash back. Other than that, it's really just been only a few sales on a weekly basis and not enough to really impact the higher price points because nobody's buying at those higher price points. And because of that, it's fallen to $75.71 and continuing to trend downward. Iron Hands, this card has lost almost 30% over the past 3 months. You can see beginning of March, it was up to $85.23. It's just been going down ever since then, sitting at $53.72 right now. That's another 29% price drop on that one. Here's the Terrapagos EX. This one was a little bit level from March all the way up until middle of April. It was kind of hovering right around that $75 mark. It did hit $78.14, but then once we started getting more Prismatic Evolution product out there, more stuff got open. Maybe, hopefully, people found stuff and were able to rip it at MSRP, and we saw it drop. You know, it's more of it and more of it drop. Not a whole lot of sales again, only about 3 copies selling, 4 copies selling on a weekly basis. But if the demand isn't there, it's a race to the bottom, and people continue to bring their card prices down so that way they can move off these cards and maybe move on to something else. Maybe that's a little bit less volatile, maybe move it into some sealed items, and because of that, you're seeing, I guess, if you want to call it a crash, I mean, 31% is a very, very large percentage drop over the past 3 months. Can you imagine your bank account suffering a loss of 33% in only the span of 3 months? You know, that is significant. So it's down to $49.65 and continuing to fall. Here's the Cornerstone Mask Ogerpon. This is the cheapest SIR right now in the set, down about 18% over the past 3 months. Middle of March, it was sitting at $31.69. We don't have any special illustration rares in Prismatic Evolutions that are sub $20, but this one is getting very close. It's down to $23.67. So again, about 18% of a drop on that one. And the last one we're going to look at, this is Pikachu EX, has gotten absolutely hammered. And for the most part, the hyper rares, the gold cards, which are more difficult to pull than a special illustration rare, mind you, people do not resonate well with the gold cards. So if you're somebody who's looking to master Prismatic Evolutions, look at some of these gold cards, the Teal Mask Ogerpon, the Walking Wake. I mean, you're looking at single digits for a lot of them. Even the Pikachu EX down almost 50% over the past 3 months and not experiencing a ton of sales even at that lower price point. So even though it's down to about $48, it's still selling only about 5-6 copies on a weekly basis. So it was at $96.47 at the beginning of March. It's dropped over 50%. Now it's down to $48.56. So a lot of Prismatic Evolutions suffering just from lack of interest, it seems. A lot of people aren't as interested in opening Prismatic. Maybe they focused on Journey Together and Destined Rivals, and they're looking forward to Black Bolt and White Flower. I think it brought a lot of saltiness to a lot of people with the way that it was all handled, with the staggered release and everything, and the inability to find it anywhere close to MSRP. I think it just brought a lot of frustration into it, and then you do finally find it, and you're expecting pull rates similar to that of Crown Zenith or Hidden Fates, and instead you get pull rates similar to Temporal Forces. It just brought a lot of sour taste into a lot of mouths, where people were like, you know what, I'm not even going to worry about it. I'm not going to buy it above MSRP. I'll just wait for the singles to fall. And now if you were patient, now singles are starting to fall. Probably still too expensive on a lot of them, but definitely coming back down to earth, which is really good. Once they start putting out more product of Prismatic Evolutions, and I do think they will print more of it, more sealed product out there, then you can kind of determine if you want to go back, revisit the set, and start cracking some packs, and hopefully hit one of those God packs or something that really kind of turns things around for you. So great information, great things to see. Obviously, really exciting that a lot of stuff from Prismatic Evolution starting to fall to at least, I'm not going to say acceptable price points, but a little bit closer to acceptable price points. We'll go with that. So you can let me know what you think in the comment section down below. I hope you guys enjoyed the content. If you did, please hit that subscribe button, leave a like, leave a comment. It goes a really long way for the algorithm, but ultimately, thank you just for being here. I love you guys. You guys are awesome. I'll talk to you again on Sunday. Till next time, peace.